Hey guys, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Ankush here from Alif Consulting. Welcome in our Azure Compute Gallery video. In this video, we will be going to learn what is Azure Compute Gallery and how you can use Azure Compute Galleries with our infrastructure which is running on Azure. Now, here is the agenda of this video. So we will be going to have a basic understanding of Azure Compute Gallery, and then we will be going to have other features like what is the limitations, what are the scalability option we have, what are the high availability options we have, and then we're going to have a demo where I will be going to show you how exactly you can create Azure Compute Gallery and rest of the images into it, right? So let's quickly jump into the introduction. So Azure Compute Galleries help us to build an organization way of managing the resources like images and application, right? Azure Compute Gallery provide us a geo application, versioning and grouping of resources for easier management, high availability resources with JDRS account into the region that support availability zone, right? Premium storage support, sharing to the community across subscription between the Azure ready tenants, scaling the deployments with resource replica into the each region, right? So these are the capabilities which has been there with Azure Compute Gallery. With a gallery, you can share your resources to everyone or limit sharing to the different users, service principal, or a Azure ready group within the organization. Resources can be replicated to the multiple region for the quicker scaling of the deployment. So Azure Compute Gallery is nothing like a images. So it's kind of I can say is a collection of the images the way Microsoft do using the marketplace, right? Where Microsoft publish their own images. The same way you can use Azure Compute Gallery. You can publish your own images and can share it to the to the peoples. You can share it to the multiple subscriptions. Can share it to the multiple tenants as well. And this is going to be a very use case for service provider where a service provider can publish their images and can share those images with any of the other customers which is running on Azure and where the infrastructure for those customers is running on Azure, right? And it can be very useful in a scenario where a customer is running a multiple tenants for a multiple environment and can share or can have the access of those compute gallery Azure Compute Galleries to share it into the multiple tenants at the same time. Storing an image, right? How we store an image into the Azure Compute Gallery, right? A image is a copy of a full VM or just a OS disk, depends on the how it's created. When you're creating a VM for images, a copy of VSD in the image are used to create the disk for a new VM. The image remain into the storage and can be used over and over again to create the VM. If you have a larger number of images that you need to maintain and would like to make them available throughout the company, you can use the Azure Compute Gallery as a repository. When you use a gallery to store the images, multiple resource types can be created. You can create the resources like what kind of images is going to be, either it's going to be generalized or specialized, either it's going to be the managed image, either it's going to be a snapshot or the VST. Then you can create your gallery just like the marketplace. A gallery is the repository of managing and sharing the images and the other resources, but you can control who can access this image definition, where you can create the versioning. You can create the versioning of multiple versioning or multiple version control for your images. And then you have a Azure version where you can specify what is the versions and the things like that is going to be happen. So we have these four resource type into the image gallery, which is image source, gallery, image definition, and the image versions. This is how your Azure Gallery look like. So you have a one share Azure Compute Gallery, then you can have your image definition. In the image definition, you can have your multiple versions to be created, right? You can have a multiple definition created into Azure Compute Gallery, and into the multiple Azure definitions, you can create a multiple versions controls for your images. Now, what is the limitation, right? So we do have a few limitations with Azure Compute Galleries. The first limitation which we have is we can only have 100 galleries per subscription per region. We can have a 1000 images definition per subscription per region. We can have a 10,000 images versions per subscription per region. We can have a 100 images version replica per subscription per region. However, 50 replicas should be sufficient for most user case. Fifth, any disk attached to the image must be less than or equal to 1 TB into the size. So these are the limitations, or I can say some of the workaround like the disk size we have with the Azure Compute Gallery. Scalability, right? So Azure Compute Gallery allow us to specify the number of replica we want to keep. This help us into the multiple VM deployment scenario, as the VM can deploy and can be spread to the different replica, reducing the chance of instance created creation process being throttled due to the overload of a single replica. With Azure Compute Gallery, we can deploy up to 1000 VM instance into the virtual machine skill set. You can set a different replica count in each target region based on the scale need for the region. Since each replica is a copy of your resources, this help scale your deployment in line with each extra replica. While we understood no two resources or region are same, here are some of the general guidance on how we can deploy or how can use the replica into the region. So scaling is one of the way, right? As we know into the limitation, we can only deploy 1000 VMs by having the image by compute gallery. So we can create a multiple image definition. In the multiple image definition, we can create a multiple versioning, and from there we can use or we can deploy a seamlessly multiple VMs without having the any uh, uh, bottleneck, or I can say a throttled due to the overloading of the single replica. Right now, how we can use the replica into the region, right? For every 20 VMs that you created concurrently, we recommend you to keep a replica, right? For example, if you are creating a 120 VMs concurrently using in the same region, we suggest you to keep at least 6 replica of your images. For each scale set you create concurrently, we recommend you to keep one replica. So these are the some of the limitation we have is from I can say the guidance we have is from scaling perspective, right? So Microsoft always recommend that over provision the number of replica due to the factor like resource sizing, uh, contents, and the OS type. So these are the scaling options we have for the Azure Compute Gallery. High availability, right? For the high availability, we have the option called Azure John redundant storage, which provides us resiliency against a John failure into the region. With the general availability of Azure Compute Gallery, you can choose to store your images into the generous accounts into the regions with the John availability or availability John. You can also choose the type of account for each of the target region. The default storage account type is the standard LRS, but you can choose the standard ZRS for the region with availability zone, right? So these are the things. We only have options is kind of ZRS which we can use, where we can specify our storage account with compute gallery, and then we can replicate our images into the multiple zones into the one region, so that in case of any one region, sorry, one zone is get failed, we still have other two reasons for our deployment, right? So let's quickly jump into the demo. So I have already logged in my Azure portal. If you go into the search bar, you need to search for Azure Compute Galleries, and this is the first option where you can see all of your compute galleries and you can create that, right? So in my case, I already have created a one, but to create the Azure Compute Gallery, it's pretty much straightforward. You just need to select the resource group where you want to sorry, first you need to select the subscription where you want to create your Azure Compute Gallery. You need to select the resource group where you want to store it. Then you can specify the name, you can specify the reason, right? And then you can see what is the sharing method is going to be, we do have a three different sharing method. We can share the role based access control base. We can share role based access control plus share directly. We can have a third option where we can use the role based access control with share to the public community gallery as also, right? So this subscription is yet not registered with some of the gallery features, right? So we need to register it. That's required a separate command lines, or we need to fill the form to the Microsoft, or maybe we need to submit the ticket for that also, right? And then from here you can click on review plus create, and once that has been done, you would be able to see your Azure Compute Gallery created, right? In the Compute Gallery, you only will be able to see a few options. You under the setting, you will be able to see your sharing setting. You will be able to see your other properties. But if you need to create the images, or you need to create the definitions, for that you need to come on the get started, and from here you can start, right? And then under the definition option, you would be able to see if there is any images has been created into this image gallery, or any container has been created for definition, and then from into the definition you can create your images into it, right? Now how you can create the definition, right? To create the definition, either you want to create the VM application, or either you want to create the compute image, you can select any of the one based on your requirement. So I'm creating the image one. I need to select the region. I need to select the compute gallery. Image definition is right. Okay. What is the image is going to be? I'm selecting the Windows. What is the security type? I'm selecting the standard, the VM type. It's going to be generalized, it's going to be specialized. I'm selecting the generalized. Publisher Microsoft, offer server 2016 SQ standard. Here you can define your version, right? So I am defining it 0.1. Uh, okay, it's major and minor. Okay, that should be fine. Any of the existing resource, right? That's you need to define here which. So any source of images, you need to specify the VSD which you want to use to store the images in definition. So as of now I don't have, so I'm keeping the versioning name is I have removed the version name. As soon as I have removed, it's not asking me any of the other required information. What is the publish option is going to be, I can specify all of those things. What are the recommended vcore, vmemory, execute number of disk is required, what kind of disk is required, either it's required is standard or premium, I can select that also. What is the email definition, end of life is going to be, those kind of things we can define here, right? And then I need to click on create. So with this one, it's going to be creating me a definition, but in that definition I still don't have any of the images, right? If I really, or if I need to add images into the definition, I can simply go into the definition, and from there I can add the images into it, right? How I can do that? That's again straightforward, and with a few parameters or images or other VSDs need to be required. Once your definition is created, you need to go into the definition, and here you would be able to see our definitions which you have created, right? So as of now, in my case, I don't have any definition. I just have submitted deployment, and my deployment is completed. So let's give it a refresh, right? You can see my definition is here. If I go into the definition, you will see I don't have any of the images, right? So what I need to do, I need to add the version. I need to specify what is the version is going to be. I need to specify what kind of images, image type or source is going to be. Either it's going to be image version, image storage account, or disk or snapshot. And then I need to select those disk, OS disk for this images. As of now, I don't have any of these things, so I don't not be able to do it. But whenever you're creating it, you need to specify your region, you need to specify your version number, you need to specify your resources, you need to specify your gallery, right? Here it will be able to see what is the image definition is. As of now I don't have that. So these are the specific parameters or which need to be specified. Then I can specify how many replica is needed, where is replica is needed. I can specify in which region the replica is needed, how many replica is needed, what kind of uh, storage account it's going to be. So I can replicate into the multiple regions, and then I can specify what is the encryption type is going to be, right? And then I can specify the encryption on it, tags and review. As soon as it's validated, then I can go and click on create to add the images into this definition, right? So this is how you can use a compute gallery, and then the compute gallery can be replicated into the multiple regions to do the deployment in a faster way, right? So that's it into the Azure Compute Gallery. I hope you like this video. If you like, please click on like and subscribe for more upcoming videos, and feel free to reach us if you have any questions. Thank you.